Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dana Pappas. I'm the Director of Officiating Services for the NFHS, and I'd like to welcome you to our second quarterly consortium of the 2024-25 school year. Go ahead and share my screen so you can see what we're talking about this evening. So our topic tonight, excuse me, is really, so you want to be an official, how can we help? And what we've really tried to do is gather some information over the past year or so from state associations, from officials and potential officials who are trying to become part of an association, and kind of really trying to share with you some of the ideas that have come from those conversations and maybe difficulties that individuals have as they're coming into the world of officiating. So we're just going to run through this slide deck, and if you've got any questions at all, feel free to you can unmute, you can raise your hand. It's pretty informal. We are recording this, so just be aware of that. So anything that you say is recorded. So if you're okay with that, then we're absolutely good with you chiming in. So we'll go ahead and get started with this. All right, if you're not seeing my screen, please let me know. I was having some technical difficulties when I was logging on, so there were a few times where I kept getting kicked out, so I do apologize for that. But you'll see on the agenda, we've got recruitment of officials, so that obviously is still something that is critical as we're going through each year. You know, we've seen some growth over the past couple of years, but we always need to recruit because our population of officials are aging out in some cases, and we have a lot of veteran officials, we have a lot of new officials, but that midsection continues to be something that we struggle with, and we struggle with keeping replenished. So that recruitment is still critical. So how can state associations, local associations, the NFHS really help those potential officials? So we're going to talk about some suggestions for websites, personal contact, the use of the Become an Official campaign, and then we'll talk a little bit about from getting them to keeping them, some retention ideas, and then we'll open it up for any ideas that you may have on this call, and then we'll open it up for questions. So that's just kind of the run of the show for this evening. So state association websites, we'll start right there. I'm going to turn off my video. You don't necessarily need to see me as much as you need the slides. So you'll hear me, but you'll see the slides. So if you haven't done really an audit of the officials page of your website in a while, right now is really a great time to do so. So while we're seeing that our numbers are starting to increase in some cases, we want to make sure that we're keeping that current and we're keeping it available to individuals who might want to become an officials. So as they're coming to become officials in states and local associations, they come back to us quite a bit with some of the kind of the frustrations that they're facing as they get onto websites, including our own. So it's definitely kind of everybody as we're trying to grow and improve and make things easier for people coming in. So some of the questions that they come back to us with is, how do I register? And then furthermore, when I register, what does that mean? Like, what am I getting for my registration? How much does it cost? What am I paying for? Who do I contact? Where do I get my uniform? Are there classes that I have to take? What's the timeline? And then I paid my money, what now? So a lot of times people go through the process, they've registered, they've done a background check, but they're not given some direction as far as what they should do after all of that takes place. So when people come back to us, these are really things that we largely can't answer. 51 state associations do things 51 different ways, which is absolutely fine. But a lot of times we want to be able to help people that are coming to our office, and we can't answer some of that. So the more you can have readily available for those individuals coming into your state associations, the fewer questions they have, the easier it becomes, and the more likely they are to really finish the process and get to the point where they've started officiating. So some things to look for on your website. So on your website, if you have a link that says, click here to become an official, where does that take them? Does it take them back to our website? So a lot of times people will sign up for Become an Official with us, and then they get in touch with their state office or they find the state website, they click on the link to become an official and it kicks them back to highschoolofficials.com. So we're sending them in that never ending loop. And then the second thing that becomes kind of a problem is if people are going to your website, they click on Become an Official and it sends them straight to the registration platform with no explanation. They get frustrated because they don't know what they're paying for. They don't know why it's $75 or $60 or $110. They're getting click here for your background check and not giving them any information. That, the worst thing we could do is the very first thing somebody sees when they go to click on Become an Official is give us money. That obviously they have to pay, but there needs to be some lead in so they understand what they're doing and what it really means to become an official. Is officiating its own tab or is it another prominent location? One of the things, those of you who are in state association offices know that our office is right now in the process of rebuilding our website because there's some things that we would like to be more prominent in the officiating area where people understand if they want to be a member of the NFHS Officials Association, they actually have to go on to the COS to register. So do we have things where it's easy to find, where it's easy to understand what they're looking for? Do you have local association or board contacts listed? And are they current if you do have them listed? So a lot of times when I'm trying to help people kind of find their way on a state association site, I'll go into a state site and I'll find that the board contact list or the local association contact list is from 2019. Those people may not be in those positions anymore. So just making sure that those are current. If you've got camps or clinics or trainings, are those up to date? If somebody goes, gosh, I really want to be a baseball umpire, and they go, oh, cool, there's a baseball camp, but they look and it was in 2022, that's not helpful either. So we've just got to make sure we're keeping that current. And then do you have any dead links? So are people clicking on your site to find information and they get that dreaded HTTP 404 error or any of the myriad other errors that come up when you hit those dead links? Make sure that your website isn't sending people into that abyss, because that's where the frustration kind of sets in sometimes. So as you're looking at your website, whether you're a state association or a local association, some suggested best practices, and we do have a couple of states that are actually working on this right now, that as soon as we get that from them, we'll share those examples out. But really creating a step-by-step process for you becoming an official in your state. Within that process, make sure that you include general information, how and where to register, how much the fee is and what it covers, background check information if that's applicable in your state, timelines and deadlines for registration, and then really what to expect as an official. That whole, you've paid your money, now what? Sport specific information. So if you can include those local contacts by city, region, section, however your state is divvied up, uniform requirements and where to buy them, meeting dates and locations, clinics, training classes or course requirements, and then links to bylaws or maybe any other governing documents that will just give them a kind of a lay of the land for your association. So those are just some suggestions of how to make that process a little easier to understand instead of just click and pay. So one of the things that we really talk about is the element of personal contact. So when somebody inquires about officiating, it's really imperative that somebody reach out to them as soon as possible to keep their interest. So one of the most common threads that we find is that there's officials who inquire like right now for football. Football season's over. So in some cases, they don't receive any information until 6-7 months from the time they've inquired. By that time, they've forgotten. A lot of times I'll get that where somebody will click on Become an Official, highschoolofficials.com on November 1st. I'll reach out the second week of December and they're like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, what did I fill out? So how do we make sure that we're making some immediate contact and at least saying, hey, I understand you want to be a football official, but we're not doing anything with that until May. That's when our registration opens. Here's some people you can talk to about when to get started and maybe training camps or meetings or any of that stuff, but at least giving them a timeline of when they can expect things to really get going so that they, you keep them on the hook. We've got them on the hook. Let's keep them there. So another issue is sometimes officials make repeated contact and they don't hear back. Sometimes they don't know who they're hearing from, so the emails get lost. So that happens, as you in state association offices know, we do those kind of checks of that become an official campaign. And many times our emails, your emails end up in a spam filter, or they see like a Gmail account and they don't know that that person is affiliated with a state association. So being able to, sometimes you have to pick up the phone or send a text. Everybody texts now, it seems, just to make that contact, because technology is great for what it's worth, but there are times where it does leave a gap. One of the things I've been thinking about is on our Become an Official site, do we start asking officials what your preferred method of contact is? Do you want a phone call? Do you want an email? Do you want a text? So that way we know what that initial reach out should look like. A lot of times on the highschoolofficials.com site, somebody will come to me and say, hey, I haven't heard anything. If they could text me, here's my number. So that way we're making sure that we're meeting them where they are. And I think that that's something, we all struggle with. It's definitely easier to send emails, but sometimes we have to meet them where they are in a different form of contact. So with that being said, we do understand that reaching out to all these prospective officials can be time consuming, especially because state association offices have 53,000 other job duties that you're taking care of. So some ways to really lighten your load, we have a number of states that are activating their retirees and using those former officials, keeping them involved as a recruitment board or recruitment committee to field inquiries and walk officials through the process. That's been really cool because you have somebody who's, walked a mile in the shoes of the official, and they can talk them through that process. And it's that personal contact. So everybody on this Zoom knows that so much of officiating is relationships. So from the get-go, you're already developing these relationships. It almost becomes a built-in sort of mentorship. So if you've got those retirees who are like, man, I really still want to give back, and there's some in every state, that's a great way to keep them involved. If you don't have them doing observation or evaluation, having them help with recruitment is a great idea. Local association or board involvement, so sending those prospects to local contacts to help them through the process. We've got a few states who, when they get their highschoolofficials.com list, they'll just take the respective ones from a certain group, send them that way, and make them, kind of build that relationship. So creating that email template to send to prospects with local leaders copied is always a great idea. So that way those prospects know who will be contacting them. So that way, if your email address is, joesmith51@gmail.com, they know that that's going to be the email address that they might be hearing from. Local associations can then fill those prospects in on that business of officiating. Okay, you want to register, here's what this looks like. So as I was talking about, Become an Official is our main source of recruitment. We know the National Association of Sports Officials, or NASO, also has Say Yes to Officiating. That's something that you might see in ads or on the web. For Become an Official, it's highschoolofficials.com, and every state has the ability to utilize a toolkit that they can co-brand. There's a website that you'll see on the screen for downloading that toolkit. It's got a video, it has customizable graphics, and then there's a little link to the path to becoming an official, it's pretty generic just because every state is done differently, but it gives just a very general idea of what it means to become an official. And then, of course, as part of the initiative, state associations receive leads about those prospective officials in their states. So, these are the officials that I mentioned. They've really raised their hands. They want to become an official. So make sure you're receiving those emails from us. If you're in a state association, you can set how frequently you get those. If you want them daily, you can. If you want them weekly, you can get them that way. Make sure your contact for your state association is correct. So if no one in your office is getting those emails, let me know. And Celia Budwig in our office works with that process, and she can get you set up. If you have an administrative assistant or coordinator that you would like to have access to that, 2 people from your state can be on. It's totally up to you. So we kind of leave that to your discretion as far as who can see it and how often they get those auto emails. And then, are the links in that auto response letter correct? So what will happen is when people sign up through highschoolofficials.com, they get an automated email that's from Carissa and myself, but in that email is the name and email address and website for those state associations of the state where they reside. If you haven't seen what your auto response looks like and you'd like to see that, you can either email Celia, whose email address is on the screen. You can email me and we can send you what that looks like. So if you have no idea because it was created 5 years ago and you want to just check on it and make sure that everything's current, just let us know and we'll be able to get that to you. If possible, follow up with officials should be within about 48 hours of whenever you pull your list or get your daily updates. And again, this is a great list to be able to send to local associations or boards, or if you decide to use those retirees, it's a great list to send to them where they can really help you and take that lift off of your plate. So, those of you in state offices know that we do a review of these about a week into each month. We'll send a check-in with everybody who's registered on highschoolofficials.com in the previous month. And we really do this only to make sure that people aren't falling through the cracks because of spam filters, prospects deleting emails that they don't know the addresses, those who claim to have not been contacted or sent to the state associations asking them to reach out again. So this is somewhere where I know it gets frustrating because you're like, man, I've contacted this person 10 times already. Just be patient with them. They don't know what they don't know yet. So they're, sometimes they just need that lifeline. We have to help them through the process as much as we can. Again, some officials will come back to us and then we'll go to the state website. And that's really why having that information on your website accurate is so important, because that way we can help them. There's no one way that state associations facilitate their officials programs. So we do want to help them, but we just have to make sure we're sending them somewhere where they don't end up in an HTTP 404 error. So as we move from obviously recruitment, the other half of the formula is retention. So the recruitment is that first half, retention is the other. And if you add them together, that's a pretty healthy association. So how does what we do in recruitment help us with retention? First is that personal connection, starting out building relationships, which can lead right into mentorship. And one of the things everybody on this Zoom has heard, that if we can keep officials for 3 years, we're going to probably keep them for a good long time. And we really feel like mentorship is one of the most critical elements of keeping people in the association. It doesn't need to be a formalized process. And I think that's what scares people off sometimes of, I don't have time to build out this mentorship process and pair people together. Some of that can just be, telling veteran officials, find people to mentor, and letting new officials know, like, find a mentor, find somebody who maybe has the same background as you. Maybe you're both teachers or you're both law enforcement officers, because a lot of times those mentorships can really be strong because of what they do outside of officiating. Building those relationships, that officiating family, which is so critical to the success of individual officials and the success of an association, is making people feel like they matter and they belong, and these are their officiating brothers and sisters. And obviously they're not always going to get along, they're not always going to agree, just like any family, but they have to feel like they're in a room full of people who understand them, who have their backs, who support them. So there's kind of the two philosophies: are we going to hold their hands or are we going to throw them to the wolves? Obviously the preferred method is let's hold their hands. Sometimes it takes more hand holding than we might have the bandwidth for, but what we can't do is just go, okay, well, you paid your dues on Tuesday and you're officiating your first game on Thursday, and there's nothing, no training, no tests, no nothing being done. And we just have to make sure that we're holding their hands a little bit through that process and answering questions. And if we don't have time to answer those questions, let's get them with somebody who does have the available time to be able to do that. So this is really where I want to open it up to those of you who are on this this Zoom tonight. And this is brief, and it's brief by intent. We know everybody's after work right now for the most part. So is there something just from you all that your state is doing that you're finding successful with getting officials started? Is there something that the NFHS can do better to assist state and local associations? And then just any other ideas, if you want to unmute, I'll go back on camera so I can see what's going on here. So anybody that's on this evening, any ideas as far as what you're doing to really welcome those officials in, or ways that you're screening them becoming officials, or anything that you feel like is being, that you're seeing some success with in your states or local associations? Because I know not everybody on here is a state office.
Dana, it's Jason.
Hi, Jason.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Awesome.
Good.
I wanted to kind of piggyback on what you said earlier regarding, people coming in after seasons are over, and how to get them in the fold and not lose them. Um, and these are the kinds of things I think about at 2 in the morning when I wake up for no reason, and I scare Pam when I tell her I have this great idea. Um, but what we started last year was having 2 years of registration open at once. Um, and because our response used to be, yeah, come back in May when registration opens. Well, they don't come back.
Right.
Um, and now we say, well, you're in luck. Registration for next year is already open. And we take them through the process. And once we have them go through registration, we have their money. Not that that's our end goal by any stretch, but at least they have some skin in the game, so to speak. And plus, they're part of our communications, for the next season already. So they start getting all of our emails and communications and documents and so on. Where before they weren't getting anything until right before the season, and that's a pretty overwhelming time for new people anyways. So we found really good success in that. Last year, our first kind of go at it, we opened it in December, and by the time we got to May, where we normally open registration, we had 1,600 people who had already registered for the next school year, 250 of which were brand new.
That's
And
awesome.
I'm pretty convinced that if we didn't have registration open, that we would have very few of those. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that we found pretty good success with that, and would encourage other states to think about it.
That's a great idea. And I think as we build out those ideas that work, I think that's something to definitely consider, because like you said, they've already paid their money, so they're probably going to come back. If you just tell them, yeah, we don't do that until 8 months from now, they're probably not going to, unless they're super motivated. But that is awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Jason. Any other ideas from some of our state association staff? Or I see local association people. If you've got something that you're doing locally, please share it. And any idea is a good idea, I think.
Hey, Dana, this is Scott. Can you hear me?
I can. Hey, Scott.
Hey, I'm actually on the road to officiate, but wanted to jump on and hear. And, kudos to Jason for what he's doing. I like that idea. One new thing we tried this year in Kansas is to leave the registration window in longer. I don't know if I can honestly say that it's been more successful of getting newer people. I mean, they're all newer officials in, but same time, it's kind of a trial and error base. So I'll let you guys know how that comes at the end. But overall, it seems like it's been pretty positive, because there's people who are like, I went to the game and I'm interested. I want to help. I want to do this. Now, can I say we're gonna retain them for a while? I don't know, but it was always something that thought about being an official in the state. Now being in my role for the state office is something I wanted to try. So that's kind of where we're at. Not sure if it'll pay off or not. Hopefully it doesn't run any people off, but at the same time, hopefully it's something that we can try. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, we may go Jason's approach and just have a registration start right after the sports seasons are over. So
That's a great idea as well. Keep us posted on how that works out. And let us know if you see a bump in numbers or if you see them, coming back for more the next year. I think that'll be the interesting data to look at as the years progress. But I appreciate that. And I appreciate the fact that, states are kind of trying different things to see what will work. And every state's so different that what works in one state may not work in another. So sometimes it is just that trial and error. Any other ideas from state or local associations? Anything that we can do as an NFHS to assist state local associations with this recruitment or retention endeavor? Other comments? This could be really, really short. Well, we are at the NFHS, we're definitely continuing to put together resources. We've got some exciting things coming up within the next probably 6 months, where we're going to be having some conversations about some possibility of some national credentialing that we're looking at. So there's definitely things that we want to do to provide resources for our state associations, as well as officials who are maybe just, or potential officials who are kind of just dipping their toe in the pond a little bit as far as, is this really something I want to do, and maybe take a class and see if that's, up their alley. So there's definitely some ideas brewing at our office, and we're always open to suggestions. So if there's things that come up within your state or local groups where you feel like it's something that you need us to be involved with or support, or if there's something that you need as a resource, please let us know, and we'll do our best to accommodate that. And we kind of keep a list within, those of you in the state offices have seen our playbook, which is kind of a compilation of ideas for recruitment, retention, sportsmanship that was based on our consortium findings. We keep that updated. It's a living document, so we do try to put any ideas that work within that. So as we hear things and we think that they're good ideas that can be shared with state and local groups, we add it to there and just kind of keep it as a living document for everybody to use. And it's state associations could use it, local groups, NGBs, anybody who has officials who's looking for ideas, that's available on our website. So feel free to share that, use it, share it, do whatever you need to with it. Any questions before we let you all get on with your evenings? All right, well, hearing none, this was a very quick consortium, but I hope the information was worthwhile. I will send a copy of the recording to everybody who was on here, as well as a copy of the slide deck. So if you look through it and you have any questions, or if there's anything else that we can do for you, please feel free to reach out at any time. And just while I've got you here, thank you so much for everything that you do for officials. And if there's anything that the NFHS can do to better serve you, please let us know. My email address is up on the screen, and I hope everybody has a wonderfully happy holiday season, and we look forward to working with you all in the new year. Have a great evening. I'll stay on for a couple minutes, and just in case anybody has anything that they'd like to discuss.